I want to thank you very much for the Chairman's courtesy. As one of our nation's most visible and trusted institutions, the Postal Service reaches every corner of every state and truly binds our nation together. It is critical for Congress to act carefully and quickly on legislation to ensure that the Postal Service can meet its current financial challenges and thrive for decades to come and for generations yet unborn. This process will succeed only if it is bipartisan. Mr. Chairman, I agree with you when you say the handwriting is on the wall, but we are the handwriters, and we can create the kind of system that is long-lasting, that does not fire people, and in this difficult economy, and at the same time right-size the Postal Service. In this spirit, I introduced a short-term legislation last week to postpone a payment the Postal Service is required to make to its retiree health fund on September 30th. My goal was simply to create additional time for negotiations between the House, the Senate, and the administration on this very, very important issue. Throughout the week, we worked in a bipartisan manner with the House Appropriations Committee. As a result, the continuing resolution now includes a provision postponing the Postal Service payment. We were encouraged with the cooperative way the appropriators and the committee handled this issue. Unfortunately, the issue has been handled very differently here in this committee, and I do appreciate, Mr. Chairman, you saying that you wanted to work in a bipartisan way. However, I believe that this matter has been politicized, and the issue needlessly has been taking steps to aggregate rather than solve challenges faced by the Postal Service. I've been eager to work in a bipartisan way, but to date, the Chairman has refused, Chairman Issa that is, to do so. Rather than work together on a consensus bill that could garner wide bipartisan and bicameral support, and I remind you, this has got to be bicameral. The bill has now been made even more extreme and even more objectionable to stakeholders than when it was first introduced. For example, in its current form, the Chairman's bill would set an artificial tripwire for the Postal Service to come under the authority of a control board. This board would then be authorized to abrogate contracts that workers negotiated in good faith with the Postal Service management so that the board could terminate workers without even giving them a severance. It is this committee's responsibility to consider and develop legislation that actually has a chance of being passed by Congress and signed into law. This bill does not meet that test. Faced with the majority's refusal to entertain bipartisan solutions, we have been forced to introduce our own legislation to address these issues in a more constructive way. This week, Ranking Member Stephen Lynch and I introduced H.R. 2967, the Innovate to Deliver Act. Unlike other proposals that merely cut services, terminate employees, and eliminate post offices, our bill tackles fundamental challenges with fundamental changes that will reverse the Postal Service's fiscal curve. In other words, we are doing that handwriting on the wall. It does this by authorizing the Postal Service to enter into new lines of business that leverage its unique advantages like other businesses do, and it gives it the flexibility that it needs to accomplish that. Post offices are the central hubs of many rural and urban communities. Our legislation will enable the Postal Service to take advantage of this presence to provide new services and products, such as check cashing, facility leasing, and retail services. The bill will also create a new Chief Innovation Officer to drive the development of these new products and services. Our bill complements these authorities with common sense measures to right-size the Postal Service workforce and facilities in a very responsible way. Together, these provisions will empower the Postal Service to function more like a business by focusing on profitability and accountability to stakeholders, in this case, the American people. I ask the committee to consider our legislation as soon as possible. I continue to hope the committee will abandon the partisan approach that has pursued to date. And I remind all of us, back in 2010, there's some who say that the American people were sending all kinds of messages, but I know one thing. They sent a clear message that they want Republicans and Democrats to work together to resolve their problems in a reasonable and practical way. And with that, I yield back.